between immigration and violent crime across U.S. cities, and they found that a positive change in immigration rate was negatively associated with change in violent crime rate. And then the second study that we'll quickly look at is titled Immigration and Incarceration, Patterns and Predictors of Imprisonment Among First and Second Generation Young Adults by Ruben Rumbat and Associates. And they hope to examine empirically the role of ethnicity, nativity, and generation in relation to crime and imprisonment. And they found that the incarceration rate of US-born citizens was 4 times that of foreign-born, as you can see from the chart on the right, with the US-born having 3.51% incarceration rate and foreign-born only having a 0.86% incarceration rate. So that is a staggering statistic to see. Now, the third study that we'll look at was titled Sociological Criminology and the Mythology of Hispanic Immigration and Crime by John Hagen and Alberto Poloni. And they hope to investigate and dispute the misperceptions of immigrants and crime. And they found 4 important findings. The first one being that specific groups of immigrants are disproportionately involved in crime, but those groups of immigrants are from countries with limited immigration to the U.S. The second finding was that Mexican immigrants are just as, if not less, involved in crime as citizens. The third finding was that illegal immigrants are less likely than citizens to be involved in drug crime, but more involved in property crime. And the fourth finding was that when difference of treatment within the crime system is taken into account, immigrants are less involved in crime than citizens. And then quickly, just 2 other studies to mention. The first one was Neighborhood Effects of Immigrant Concentration on Changes in Neighborhood Crime Rates by John Hipp, John MacDonald, and Charlotte Gill. And the second one was Immigration and Crime, Assessing a Contentious Issue by O.C. and Kubrin, again. And the key findings of these studies was that a greater predicted concentration of immigrants in neighborhoods was linked to significant reductions in crime, and that the overall average immigration crime association is negative but very weak, otherwise known as the immigration has little or no effect on crime rates. So overall, these studies mostly found that immigration is negatively associated with crime, but few of them actually looked at the neighborhood levels and their associations between the variables, and that is what this study hopes to fill in the gap of. Now for the methodology, our 3 hypotheses for this research proposal. The first one is there is a significant and negative relationship between immigrant concentration and crime rate within an area. The second one is that immigrants will have a lower propensity for crime than the US-born citizens, although the effects are mediated as the generations progress, with the first generation having the lowest propensity to commit. And then the third hypothesis is that certain groups of immigrants are less likely to be involved in crime than others. Now for our research design, we are going to be using data from publicly available data sets and agency or administrative records. And the advantage of using this is that we can focus on analysis rather than the collection of data, which will make it so we have more time for the analysis and can get a more thorough understanding of our findings, as we don't have to use a bunch of our time just collecting the data. And as well, it helps to keep our costs down because we're not going out into the field and collecting the data. As well, publicly available datasets allow for the investigation into the interaction of multiple variables at the same time, which is perfect for our research study. For the publicly available datasets, we will be collecting or using data from the American Community Survey and Uniform Crime Rate, and we'll be using data from the years 2015 through 2019. We will not be using data from 2020 to 2023, as those could be affected by COVID-19 and therefore not give us an accurate representation of the data. This design is the most appropriate because it allows us to gather a large and representative sample, as well as having the publicly available data sets using consistent data collection methods, which makes the analysis of that data much easier than if we were to use a data set that has inconsistent data collection methods. Now for the agency or administrative records, we're going to be using local law enforcement agencies. And how we're going to get that data is by sending an email campaign out to local agencies And if they're unresponsive within a week's time, we will then call the departments directly asking for access to the data. And we will be asking for them to provide all their data, crime data from 2015 to 2019. And they will be providing it via a password protected Excel spreadsheet to make sure that the data is secure and that no one else can view the data. Now, there will be no direct incentives for the agencies in exchange for the data, but they will be made aware of the potential benefits that can be found from the findings of this study. Now, this design is the most appropriate as using agency or administrative records is highly reliable and objective compared to other methods, as well as these records having comprehensive data on demographic and crime-related data, which is perfect for our research proposal as we're going to be looking directly at the demographic and crime-related association. Now, for the measures, we have three independent variables. The first one is immigrant concentration rate, second one is immigration status, and the third one is country of origin. The two dependent variables for the study is crime rate and crime involvement, and then the control variables of the study are poverty rate, median household income, population density, educational attainment, and age distribution. Now, the target population of this sample is the entire population within the given research area, which we would like to be Chicago, as we believe this city has a significant immigration population, so it will provide us a great basis for our research, which is focusing on immigration. Now, for the sampling frame, we will need a comprehensive list of all addresses or households within the research city. And then for the sampling strategy, we will be using a cluster sampling strategy, with the criteria being that the clusters are representative of the population, and that the number of clusters and their sizes provide a sufficient sample size. Now, the advantages of using a cluster strategy is that it provides us with the ability to present natural groupings within the population, as immigrants are known to live in communities or neighborhoods with other immigrants. So this cluster strategy is able to present these natural groupings that the immigrants put themselves in very well. And also another advantage is that it is cost efficient in comparison to other strategies. Now, for the disadvantages, the first one is that it may have a reduced precision in comparison to other strategies, and there also may be complications when designing a good sample strategy in determining what clusters to use. The limitations of using a cluster strategy, the first one is that there's a possibility for selection bias if the clusters are not representative of the overall population, as well as they're having a potential for limited generalizability if the clusters are not diverse enough and don't provide adequate representation of the range of immigrant concentration rate and crime rates within the entire population. Now, for the ethical considerations. First one is data security, and how we ensure data security with our research is by using a password-protected Excel spreadsheet, with the password being only known to me and the administrations that provide us with the data. This password protection prevents others from gaining access to the Excel spreadsheets that contain the sensitive information. So that just makes sure that the data is secure. And then the second ethical consideration is confidentiality and anonymity. And how we make sure that that is true is through the data collection method, by using the American Community Survey and UCR data sources. This provides exceptional anonymity and confidentiality as there is no names of the individuals included in these data sets, which means that the anonymity and confidentiality concerns are dealt with immediately. Now, another ethical consideration that we have for this research design is the providing accurate and representative population. And how we do this is by using cluster samples with diverse populations to make sure that it is representative of the populations that we are looking at. Now, the ethical benefits of this research could be first, the reduction of prejudice or stereotypes by providing information on the crime reducing benefits of having a diverse community. And then a second ethical benefit could be the increased understanding of the relationship between immigrant concentration and crime, as this research could provide a better understanding of the relationship between these two variables. Now, for the expected results of the study, we first expect from the first hypothesis that immigrant concentration rate is negatively associated with crime rate, meaning that the more immigrants within an area or a neighborhood, the lower the crime rate will be. Now, we also think that there should be more research done into why this is the case, what is the reasonings behind the reduced crime rate within immigrant-dense neighborhoods. And then the second expected result that we believe will occur from this research with the second hypothesis is the crime-reducing effects that immigrant concentration has on a community is mediated by the generation of the immigrants within the population. We believe that the first generation will have the lowest propensity, and the propensity to commit will progress higher and higher as the generations go on. And at some point, it will match that of a citizen uh, as the immigrants have fully assimilated into American culture. And then for the third expected result from the third hypothesis, we believe that certain immigrant populations have a higher propensity towards crime than others, and we believe that the groups of immigrants that have the higher propensity will be from countries with extreme cultural differences from the US. And we believe that is the case because they will have trouble assimilating into American culture and will then be forced into crime, or they will believe that they're being forced into crime. That is why they will be more likely to commit crime. And that is all I have. Thank you for listening.